Hello and welcome back to Alice's Bucket. This is the channel where I tell stories from my travels around the world. If you've been watching my videos recently, you'll know that this is a series where I've been counting down my top 5 favourite places to visit in every single Australian state. This is the last video of this series. We've only got one more state to talk about. Which one's it gonna be? I have no clue. We'll have to consult the bucket. Tell us, bucket, which Australian state do we have left? The answer is, of course, New South Wales. So let's get into it and talk about my top 5 favourite places to visit across this state. Just a reminder, these are all places I have visited myself, so this is just coming from my own personal experience and opinion. But we are going to kick off today's list with number 5, which is Coffs Harbour. Coffs Harbour is a charming little town, popular with backpackers and families alike. It has its own airport, surprisingly. But if you are driving, it only took me 6 hours from Sydney. 6-hour drive in Australia is a visit to your mum's house. 6-hour drive in England is a holiday. If you've got kids, then you can visit the Big Banana Fun Park, which is packed with water slides, arcades, there's an ice skating rink, there's mini golf as well. It's a bunch of fun. I can't actually take credit for that one because I stole that from the website. But it does sound very appealing to me. The whole family will go bananas for it. I'm sorry. Of course, Coffs Harbour also offers some great beaches of its own, where you can do lots of different water sports, including surf kayaking. Wait, no, kayak surfing? But it's pretty much as it sounds. Instead of catching waves on a surfboard, you're in a kayak. It sounds odd, but it's actually really fun. And if you don't have a crippling fear of heights like myself, then you can head up to the Forest Sky Pier for some amazing views of the town. Where are my Dutch audience at? Are you Dutch? Because if you are, then you could have a little taste of home in Coffs Harbour, Australia. If you're Dutch and you're homesick, then you can go visit the Clog Barn tourist attraction, which offers a little slice of Holland in Australia. But look, they even have a little miniature Dutch village. Is that not the most adorable thing you've ever seen? That's so cute. Moving on to number 4 on this list, we have the Nightcap National Park. This national park, located just outside of Byron Bay, has a World Heritage listed rainforest. It also has campgrounds for overnight stays and many beautiful hidden waterfalls. I seem to remember that we camped for one night, but I could have easily spent another day and night there. So I'm just going to mention some of my highlights, starting with the Minion Falls, which is a beautiful waterfall cascading over this dramatic cliff face. It's a great spot for pictures, but please don't get too close to the edge. It's not worth it. If you're visiting during the hot summer, then the Wayan Falls have a great pool that you can cool down in. And finally, you have the Protesters Falls, which I love because there's a great walk through the forest to get there before you come to this impressively tall waterfall in the middle of the forest. It's also possible to walk behind the waterfall, which I think is always a really cool perspective. Can you tell that I love waterfalls? I might have mentioned it once or twice in my videos. Coming in at number 3, we have the surfers' favourite, Byron Bay. Now, you may remember that back in December, Australia's east coast was battered by storms, washing away nearly 1,000 kilometres of beach across Queensland and New South Wales. Byron Bay was sadly one of the victims, and you had metres of beach just washed away in a matter of hours. It's really sad to see, and I do hope that the beaches can be restored to their former beauty. Nevertheless, I'm still putting Byron Bay on this list because it is still a very popular place with backpackers, and there's loads of cool bars and hostels to hang out in. And there's lots of beachside shops because, as I've mentioned before, it is a really popular place for surfers, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro. Overall, I think Byron Bay is popular with young people because of this very kind of cool, laid-back vibe it has. It's hard to explain, you just kind of have to visit to understand what I'm talking about. One of the most popular activities to do there is to get up very early and take a walk up to the lighthouse to watch the sunrise at Australia's most eastern point. Wow, just look at that sun rising over the horizon. I hope there are some flat earthers watching this because, wow, look at those curves. It's also worth noting that the waters around Byron Bay are actually a marine protected area. This means that this is a great area to go whale watching. The best time is between June and November. Or you can also take tours and go kayaking with dolphins all year round. That's awesome. You should do that. I never did that. I wish I did, but you should do that. So number 2 and 1 on this list were really close, but I had to make a decision. So coming in at number 2 on this list, we have the Blue Mountains. The Blue Mountains, located just outside of Sydney, are an absolute must-see. Named after the haze produced by eucalyptus trees. There's 1 million hectares of natural beauty and 140 kilometres of walking tracks to explore. It's just a 2-hour drive from Sydney, and I do think that getting there by car is best, but it is also accessible by train or by coach tour. I would recommend staying in the local town of Katoomba, where they have bus tours that will take you around all the different stops of the park, and you can also visit the numerous little boutiques and businesses. It's a very cute place. The bus conductor told us a story of when McDonald's tried to build a restaurant there and the locals had to fight hard to prevent that from happening, and I'm so glad they did. It would just ruin the whole atmosphere. It is not the place for your conglomerate fast food restaurant, okay? There are so many walking tracks and lookouts and places to see. There's just too many to talk about, so I'm just going to talk about some of my favourites. The Three Sisters is probably the most famous landmark in the park. Echo Point is a very popular viewing spot for this. The problem is you do get busloads of tourists coming to Echo Point every day, so I would recommend that you go early in the morning. The Three Sisters is essentially an unusual rock formation that, according to Aboriginal legends, used to be 3 sisters who were turned to stone. I'll put a link down in the description for a website of the Blue Mountains that tells you more about the legend in detail. If you want to visit at sundown, the sisters are also floodlit every night until 11 p.m. You can actually go and walk on the Three Sisters as well. You have to cross this sort of high bridge at one point, and I had to really psych myself up because, as I've mentioned before, I hate heights. And I hate showing my fear, so I'm trying to look really cool in front of the strangers, and I'm really bricking it on the inside. I would also recommend visiting Scenic World, which is a bit of a unique way of seeing the park. You can take the Scenic Skyway over the park for an amazing view of the Three Sisters. Again, terrifying for someone who hates heights. Why do I always put myself in these situations? I don't know. You can also take the world's steepest railway down to the forest floor. That is right. This railway has a 52-degree incline, making it the steepest passenger railway in the world. It's odd because it's like being on a very slow roller coaster with very little to strap you in. And when they say hold on to your belongings, you better hold on to your belongings because they will go flying. My bag may have taken a trip down to the front of the carriage. No worries, I got it all back. It's fine. It's all good. And finally, we have the New South Wales capital city of Sydney as number 1. Like I said before, number 1 and number 2 were very close, but the reason I had to put Sydney at number 1 was for one reason in particular, and that was the Sydney Opera House. Now, when I think you hear about some of the most famous landmarks in the world, like the Sydney Opera House, like the Eiffel Tower, like Stonehenge, it can be overhyped sometimes, and when you get there, you're just a little bit disappointed. However, this was not the case with the Opera House. I just completely fell in love with everything. The architecture of the building, the location on the harbour and the bridge behind it. It was just stunning. I do truly think that it's one of those places you just have to see for yourself. I would recommend taking a walk round to Mrs. Macquarie's chair, where it's a popular place for people to stop and take photos as the sun's going down. Really pretty. You can also walk across the harbour bridge to take some stunning bird's eye view photos of the Opera House. So many areas of Sydney are popular with backpackers. You've got Newtown, which has got vintage shops and lots of quirky bars. There's Glebe, I think that's how you pronounce it, Glebe, which has some really cool nightlife and independent bookstores. And you've also got Coogee, which is a little bit quieter, but it is on the coast and it's got some really cool bars with some outdoor beer gardens. I mean, what more do you need? One of my favourite memories from Sydney was doing the coastal walk from Coogee to Bondi. The coastline is just really interesting and it's got lots of little hidden bays and rock pools that you can swim in. And then you get to Bondi Beach, which, if I'm being really honest, is actually a little bit disappointing. And I'm really sorry because I actually really love Bondi Rescue. But honestly, I just wasn't blown away by Bondi. For a beach day, I would actually recommend taking the ferry to Manly. You can take the ferry from the city centre and it gives you a great chance to take a tour of the harbour. Manly is known for its pedestrian mall, which is usually filled with buskers and, in my opinion, a far superior beach. There's also a walking track up the hill and you can get a cool view from up there too. I was in Sydney for about a week, but there's definitely so much more to explore, so I think a 2-week holiday in Sydney is actually very doable. So there you have it, that is my top 5 places to visit in New South Wales. But of course, as usual, I always end videos with a couple of honourable mentions. However, this week, I actually only have one honourable mention. Now, I didn't actually visit this place myself, but I did think it was worth mentioning, although it's not even really in New South Wales. I am, of course, talking about Australia's capital city, Canberra. And yes, just to be clear, Sydney is the capital of New South Wales, but it is Canberra that is capital of the whole of Australia. Canberra actually lies within the Australian Capital Territory, but that is surrounded by New South Wales. Canberra is where you have all the official government buildings within what's known as the Parliamentary Triangle. This includes the National Gallery of Australia, the National Library of Australia, Old Parliament House and New Parliament House. The architecture here is actually really cool. Everything feels very uniform and modern at the same time. In recent years, Canberra has actually become known as a culinary destination. There's lots of eateries and restaurants, markets, and plenty of breweries and wineries where you can go wine and beer tasting. It's also known for its many museums and collection of priceless Aboriginal art. They also have the Lake Burley Griffin, which is this large man-made lake created specifically as a place to go and relax and do some leisure activities, water sports like sailing and kayaking. There's lots of green space for people to go biking or have a picnic or just hang out in the sun. It's a very beautiful inner city green space. I don't think Canberra should be dismissed, and if I get a chance to return to Australia, I would actually really like to visit. And that's it. That is a wrap for this series. Guys, we did it! Well done, give yourselves a hand. I've officially made my way across the whole of Australia talking about my recommended places to visit across every single state. So I'm now going to be taking a week off to prepare for my next series. I won't be revealing what it is yet, but keep an eye on my channel for some updates and make sure you hit that notification bell so you know straight away as soon as I return. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions of videos that I could do, then please email me at alicesbucket@outlook.com. I'd love to hear what you guys think and what you would like to see. That's it, we're done. See you in 2 weeks. Bye!